It's recap time. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and this is not my usual intro. This is a bit of a special episode. Unfortunately, I will be away for a few days, and I found out this interesting way of filling the gaps with recaps from previous episodes. If this is your first time here, use it as an opportunity to find topics that you might be interested in and go back to listen to the original ones. If you are a usual listener of the Shower Podcast, well, again, this might be a rehearsal of topics that you might be interested in. Otherwise, I understand if you want to wait for me to be back. But in the meanwhile, the podcast needs to continue and we need to reach day 365. Having said that, I will not keep you longer. Thank you very much for listening. As always, a like and a subscribe. They are always welcome. And now, recap time.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've got these three specific episodes from Chip's Shower Diaries. Numbers 280, 281, and 282.
Right. Back-to-back reflections.
Exactly. And our goal isn't just a summary, right? It's more like getting a quick path into his thinking lately on, staying consistent and tackling challenges.
Mm-hmm. And these are really, quite revealing. You get this inside look at someone who builds systems for consistency, but then bumps up against basic human nature.
Yeah.
So if any of this stuff we talk about clicks for you, definitely go check out the original daily episodes. You get the full, raw stream of consciousness there.
Good point.
Our mission today is really to pull out those main themes and see how these struggles, which might seem separate, actually connect.
Okay, let's dive right in then. Episode 280, Learning by Doing, and the topic is just straight up procrastination.
Yeah, raw procrastination.
What grabbed me was Chip saying, don't expect that feeling of wanting to procrastinate to just poof, disappear over time, even if you're usually consistent.
Exactly. That was the big insight for him. If you really want things to change, you need bigger shifts in how you act, not just willpower.
And he zeroes in on this specific problem. What are we calling it? The buffer trap.
The buffer trap, yeah. He found he doesn't really struggle with doing things, like the action itself. It's this specific weak spot, letting himself have a little bit of wiggle room, a buffer, to push a task later in the day.
Okay, but why is the buffer the bad guy? Not just, the task being hard, big tasks, sure, we put those off, but he's saying even tiny things.
That's the kicker. Simple stuff, like 5 minutes to the grocery store for dinner, things. Yeah. Those are the ones that fall victim to the buffer the most because there's no immediate external fire under him.
Oh, right. No immediate pressure.
Precisely. So that buffer just becomes this open door for friction. But he did notice two situations where he's super efficient, almost never procrastinates.
Okay.
One, when he's constantly out of the house, like on vacation.
Okay.
The environment just dictates the schedule, basically.
8 cents. Less opportunity to drift.
And two, when what he needs to do is directly tied to someone else or a really hard deadline.
So if he needs to finish an episode by a specific time for somebody else, boom, it's done. Perfect.
Flawlessly.
But if it's just for him, like he mentioned, delaying recording that very episode by 2 hours, that's when the buffer wins.
Right. So the lesson there maybe is that procrastination isn't always about lacking motivation. Sometimes it's just a failure of enforcement. You got to find a way to make the pressure external somehow, remove that escape hatch, that buffer. But crucially, in a way where the reward feels bigger than the effort it takes to close that exit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so following Chip's train of thought, episode 281, I Don't Get It, seems like a bit of a shift, doesn't it?
It does. He moves from that internal struggle of procrastination to looking outwards at the stuff we consume.
Prompted by watching that Netflix series, Monster.
Right. And that led him down this rabbit hole about the debut of Hitchcock's Psycho back in the 50s. The stories of audience reactions, people literally throwing up, women going into labor. Intense stuff.
Yeah, that was wild. And Chip's take is interesting. He's suggesting it wasn't just the shock value of the content.
No, he thinks it was partly because people back then just weren't accustomed to that level of raw complexity, that kind of psychological depth in their movies.
And his argument is that this intolerance for difficulty has gotten way worse.
Oh, yeah. He argues modern content is often just engineered to be super easy, instantly digestible. If we don't get something right away, we just feel frustrated and click away.
We've lost our patience for intellectual friction.
Dangerously low tolerance, he calls it.
And this is where it gets kind of provocative, right? He says we should actually look for complicated things.
Actively seek them out. Stuff that makes us feel troubled or challenged. Things where we don't immediately have that comfortable feeling of, oh, I recognize this.
Because if you're not struggling a bit, you're probably not learning much.
That's the idea. He used that great example from gaming, Silksong. Critics were asking for an easy mode because it was too hard.
Right.
And Chip's point is, look, if you simplify it just to make it easier, you actually destroy what the creator intended. You ruin the experience they designed.
And he ties it back to life itself with that analogy about people, partners specifically.
Yeah, that was powerful. Saying it's like asking the people close to you to be less complex just so you can avoid dealing with difficult things.
But their complexity, the challenging parts, that's often why the relationship is meaningful in the first place, why you're even attached.
Exactly. So connecting it back.
Yeah.
If you're always smoothing out the bumps in what you watch or read, always looking for the easy version.
You're reinforcing the same pattern that lets you fall into that productivity buffer trap.
Right. You're training yourself internally and externally to only accept the easy option. The really valuable moments, he argues, are the ones that force you to actually think critically.
Oof. That's a tough pill, but probably true. And it sets up episode 282 perfectly, doesn't it? Stop pulling.
It really does. It loops back to productivity, but this time it's about sustainability, about sheer fatigue. He recorded this after some travels in September, struggling to get back into his rhythm.
So this is where the different kinds of complexity crash into each other.
Kind of, yeah. Chip realized, okay, I can have these perfectly structured plans, maybe even over-engineered plans, trying to beat the buffer trap. But at the end of the day, he's the one who has to execute them. And sometimes the engine's just running on empty.
Stop pulling. The title says it all, really.
Such a clear image. If you just keep yanking on that metaphorical cord of energy and willpower without checking how frayed it is,
You're gonna snap.
and the fallout from that snap is way worse, way more disruptive than if you just eased off earlier and postponed something.
He also mentioned that tendency to over-engineer things being a problem in itself.
Yes, a big one for him over the years. He admits that creating these super detailed, perfect plans can actually cause him to procrastinate when his energy is low.
How so? Seems counterintuitive.
Because he knows he can't possibly execute the perfect plan when he's tired. So the sheer complexity of his own system becomes this barrier. He stalls completely rather than do it imperfectly.
Okay. The perfect becomes the enemy of the good, especially when you're drained.
Exactly. So the solution he landed on, the realistic one, wasn't about forcing himself through it or beating himself up.
It was.
Admitting when to just lower the expectations for that day, like doing a shorter shower diary instead of pushing for a full, polished episode he didn't have the energy for.
Shifting the goal from rigid perfection to just sustainable consistency.
Basically, yeah. It's about respecting that you'll need energy tomorrow, too. Pushing a task to tomorrow isn't necessarily failure if it means you actually have the energy and mental space to do it properly then.
It's a reminder to be realistic about your own capacity.
Use realism, he says. Sustainability beats short-term perfectionism in the long run.
Okay, so let's try and weave these three threads together for everyone listening. Chip's reflections took us from needing to remove that internal buffer to force action.
To the importance of seeking external complexity for real growth and learning.
And finally, to recognizing the need to avoid internal over-engineering of our plans to prevent burnout and actually make our systems work long-term.
And the real challenge for you, listening, probably lies in that balance, right?
How do you actively seek out those valuable, sometimes uncomfortable, friction-filled experiences he talked about in episode 281?
While also making sure your own schedule, your own systems aren't so damn complicated like in 282.
That they just set you up to fall right back into that procrastination buffer trap from episode 280. It's tricky.
It really is.
Maybe think about this. Chip's daily podcast itself, it's a perfect example of forced consistency for him, a boundary.
But it's also something he seems to genuinely enjoy doing. It's a reward, too.
So the final thought maybe is, what's that one activity in your life, that non-negotiable thing that works as both a necessary boundary and something you actually look forward to?
Finding that sweet spot where the commitment feels good might just be the key to navigating your own complexity without, snapping that cord.
Something to definitely mull over.
For sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Chip's recent self-reflections. Really interesting stuff.
Always good to unpack these.
Stay consistent, stay resilient. I'll see you tomorrow.